Hello and welcome to SoulWhat, a Soultopia podcast with producer Matt Stoker. I am your host, Michelle Welch.
And I'm your host, Roger Welch. So what's up today, Michelle?
Well, I'm really, really excited. We have a really, probably one of my most, I've told you this before. I don't know who doesn't have a crush on Sasha Graham. I mean, she's just amazing, and just I can't see her on the screen, but okay. And so she's going to be with us, and just really, really excited to introduce you guys. Most of you probably already know Sasha. She does a little bit of everything, and she's amazing and so dynamic and personable. So I can't wait to introduce you if you haven't met her yet.
And we got a video?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to play a little live video trailer for you guys of some of Sasha's new work. Okay, so we're back, and I'm not sure if you could hear that awesome video. It's the Dark Wood Tarot video, which is Sasha's latest deck, and if you couldn't hear it on this one, we will post the link to that later because it is absolutely awesome. But Sasha Graham teaches tarot and metaphysical topics, speaks and lectures around the globe. Sasha's work has been translated into Chinese, Italian, Russian, French, Spanish, Polish, and Portuguese. She is the author of Tarot Diva. She is the Tarot Diva, right? 365 Tarot Spreads, 365 Tarot Spells, Llewellyn's complete book of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, and the forthcoming Practical Magic of a Tarot Practice. She served as editor and writer, and I'm going to have her always teach me the once and final way to correctly pronounce. I'm going to have her say it. The Los Scarabos, I can never pronounce that. Tarot Fundamentals, Tarot Experience, and Tarot Compendium. Sasha is a contributing author of Llewellyn's Magical Almanac 2020, 2022, Witch's Datebook 2022, and Llewellyn's Witch's Calendar 2021. And her tarot decks include the Haunted House Tarot and the Darkwood Tarot. Welcome, Sasha. It's great to see you.
Hi, Michelle. It's so happy to be here. Thank you for that beautiful intro.
Well, you have done, I mean, it's like, when do you breathe? There's so much that you have accomplished. You're just amazing. And it's so interesting. I love your new deck. We'll get to that in a second. But it's interesting. I didn't know that you were the one, I probably knew this, but for the almanacs, those you have to order. So, we own 2 stores. We have to order those like 6 months before the new year, and people that are new don't realize, and we'll have them out, and then they'll be like, "What do you mean you don't have them when it gets to be January?" Because they go so quickly and sell out, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think the way I was introduced to Llewellyn as a publisher was probably through their magical almanacs. So it's still such a thrill every time they ask me to contribute something to an almanac or to a date book. Or I was really excited for 2021. I wrote for the August, which is calendar. So
wow.
The whole month. It's such an honor. It's so exciting. I love those books.
Yeah, they're great, and it's so interesting because how we've learned now that we've had the stores open long enough that we have to order them quite early to make sure we get them in, right?
Here in another couple of months, yes, we'll be ordering them.
I already ordered.
You already ordered them? Oh, we already ordered them.
It's
okay.
already done.
Okay.
That's been taken care of. So we tried to play your trailer at the beginning, which was beautifully done, by the way, and I love your deck. In fact, I love your deck so much So we're sold out again with your deck. And my copy, this is a friend's copy who ran it up here. Here I own 2 stores, and I had to have a friend run hers up because I've been using mine so much at home. And I love reading good books when they have good book compendium, with them. I've been reading the book so much that it's at home somewhere, and I can't find mine today. I was just, the one day, and I was telling Matt, our producer, that every single time I need somebody's deck for the show, I can't find it. But I'm loving it. Could you tell us a little bit about the Dark Wood Tarot?
Yes. So it's been really exciting watching this deck move into the world, I have to say, because people seem to be having a really good time with it. It's based in fairy tale and myth, and it's really meant to be used a bit as a shadow deck, which doesn't mean that you can't use the deck for any kind of normal reading. But, I had done actually a shadow workshop at the Reader's Studio, and I was I fell in love with discovering what resides inside of your shadow. And I think that as tarot readers, our job is to look into spaces and find things that are not readily apparent, especially with ourselves. Like tarot readers, we have to keep ourselves on point, and we have to keep ourselves honest with the cards. And it's so easy to sit with a deck of tarot and just tell yourself what you want to hear, even for seasoned professionals. So I wanted to create a deck that would literally seduce readers into looking into the darker sides of their personality, call them out. I want to call myself out on bad behavior when I'm invoking bad behavior, only because I know that when you can look at yourself honestly and look at some of the darker parts of you, and just because something is hidden doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. We put good things into our shadow as well. But I was really interested in a deeper experience of reading cards for myself. And I was so curious what a shadow deck might look like. So I couldn't figure it out until I created it. And it was just thrilling. And I do think it gives really powerful readings. I know it does for me. I've heard that from a lot of other people. So I'm delighted. I'm just so delighted with it. And Abigail Larson, my illustrator, so breathtakingly talented, like ridiculously talented. It took us over a year to find her, and it was so worth the wait. And I was like so excited to make the deck. And I was just every month, when you're looking for artists for a tarot deck, you pretty much have to give every artist a month to submit their samples. And with everyone, it was like, no, this isn't right, until I saw Abigail, and it was like love at first sight. Like I knew she was the one.
The colors in this deck are they're beautiful, and you can tell it's so thoughtfully done, even color-wise. It's almost like, seriously, beautiful artwork. I could see a fashion show, really, from the colors. I mean, the rich reds of this deck. I know that seems odd to say, but I think of things that way a lot of times, fashion shows, because the colors are just so beautiful in this deck.
Yeah, and I do think that there's, I think it pays to seduce look, when you do magic, when you do a tarot reading, when you turn out all your lights and light some candles, set up some sacred space, get ready for a ritual, what you're really doing is seducing yourself into that space, right? And so I think that it paid to me. I find this deck and Abigail's artwork to be very seductive. And like I said, if I'm going to ask someone to kind of look into the darkness of their soul, I want to do it in a soft kind of seductive way, so they'll be kind of eager there. And yeah, like it is kind of fashioning. It is fabulous.
Yeah.
Like
yes,
I would pretty much wear any of the outfits in that deck.
It is.
Right? Wouldn't you?
Yes, I would. So when's the fashion line coming out? I mean, it really is. It's funny because I pick up decks and I look at, is it the artistic value? Is it really there? And it really is. And plus just everything, of course, you behind it that's in the deck. I just love it. I was flipping through, and it's hard to choose a favorite. I do that a lot. You know how a lot of readers will choose they have their favorite cards that they go to a lot of times to see what they think about a deck. but I was just liking every single card in here.
It's very
Yeah,
cool.
I do. So Roger and I told Roger he's going to like it too. He hasn't used it yet because
Not
I've
yet,
been
but I was
hogging
flipping
it.
through there. I was like, I could read with these
Yeah.
for sure.
You can. Tell our readers a little bit, if our readers, our listeners a little bit, and people watching about their their shadow side, their shadow self. Those just a brief little bit, and how you think you tie that in into a tarot reading of using these cards.
Okay, so like I said, the whole point of reading cards for a tarot reader is to find out information that's not readily available, right? You're looking for the unseen, you're looking for what is hidden. That's the whole point. That's when you think of a gypsy tarot card reader, someone who knows something that everybody else doesn't know. And I think, the most important, you have to stay on point as a reader. So the shadow self essentially is a collection of all of the things you don't let yourself do, all of the things that you think are wrong. It's a bunch of the stuff that your mom and dad taught you. Don't do this, be polite, don't be greedy. And what happens is we stuff all of this stuff down into ourselves. And we also stuff good things. Like if you have a passion or a love for something, and as a very young child, you're told you'll never succeed or you're no good at that, you might stuff passion down inside of you. Creativity, you might fall in love with someone you're not supposed to fall in love with. And if you don't allow yourself to have that relationship, then that love gets stuffed down into the shadow. And then, because what's so interesting, right, all of life is a projection. So what happens is whatever you've got stuffed down in your shadow winds up being the thing that focuses, that catches your attention out there. So there's also this sort of projection that when there's something wrong in the world, it's other people. And this leads to racism and sexism and all sorts of terrible behavior. And I always say, the monsters are not out there. The monsters are inside of us. And again, it's the first rule of witchcraft. You have to take responsibility for yourself and who you are. And you know more than anyone that magician's axiom, as above, so below. What's true for you is true for the world. So more than anything, if you can heal the darkness, the bitterness, the anger, the jealousy, the discontent that resides inside of you, you've gone a long way in healing the world. I went 2 years ago, this October, I went to Tibet, and Tibet was the most beautiful country, and the people are completely repressed by the Chinese, and I felt so helpless. And like, where do you start? Like, there's so much injustice in the world, whether it's Tibet, pick anything. There's a million things, right? Where do you start? Start with yourself. Where are you repressing other people? Where are you repressing yourself? So I think this work is essential. And I think it's interesting that this deck happened to come out during this summer with all of the turmoil going on. We're in a shadow moment. There's a reckoning par none, from the Me Too movement to Black Lives Matter to politics to everything. It's all bubbling to the surface. Right. And so now is the time to look inside of yourself. And take responsibility for who you are. And so that's why I wanted this deck to be seductive, because it's not easy to do shadow work, but it'll change your life and it will free you. Yeah. It will free you.
Yes. It really, and it's interesting to me because a lot of the things you just said, I have to say, when I wrote The Magic of Connection, my book, which you blurbed for me, and were nice enough to write an endorsement for, so much of those same things you just said about the world and I call it minding your own energy, managing your energy, and looking at yourself first. There's so much and there's so much overlap in what you just said. So I think it seems like that's a message that's coming to the surface now for a lot of us, right?
Yeah. And I was literally like jumping up and down in my seat as I was reading your book. It is so, Michelle, it's needed. It's just so needed. Like, I don't think we can talk about this stuff, convey or teach people or share what we know about this kind of work. I think it'll save us, and that's, I know it saves me.
Yeah. That's why I'm glad that everything you said, it's just, I think people right now, it's going to be interesting to see those of us who were putting out things and writing things during and started it before COVID even started, and it's came out, and it's interesting to see how like they're starting to mold together as opposed to being not germane or relevant now. They seem to be more relevant. It's interesting to me. Yeah.
Definitely. So, you know, a lot of times when you're in the middle of a reading or you start a reading, and a lot of times people will sit down and you say, hey, you got a question? And a lot of times I say, no, just a general reading. But tell us why it's so important for people to have a really good, important question to come to you with.
Oh, I love talking about really good questions. Again, I think formulating a really good question before a tarot reading, or even if you're just pulling a single card, is akin to a magical act. Because the way that you express your question, how you phrase a question, essentially sets your brain up to figure out the answer. And that's part of what you're doing when you're reading cards. And that's why a card a day practice is so great. But so, yeah, so like when you sit down for a reading, whether it's for another reader or for yourself, of course, you can do general. Is a general reading going to give you anything that you can walk away and really do something with? Highly doubtful, unless you're with like a really charismatic, fun, and interesting reader. I think it's important to do three things when you sit down for a reading and create a question. One, like I said before, take responsibility. So never ask a question like when am I going to fall in love, or when am I going to become a millionaire, or why does my life suck? That you're giving your power away. You want to claim who you are. So you always want to start a question with something like what can I do, or how can I do something? Because then the card is going to give you an answer, and you'll know what you can do or how you can do something to get what you want. So always start with like a how or a what, and then state whatever it is that you want. How can I bring the highest possible romance into my life? What can I do to become more responsible financially? How can I be true to who I am and find a line of work that I love? So these are all such wonderful questions that tarot is it gives you the gift of specificity. If you're very specific with your question, you'll get a very specific answer. And then it really becomes a magical spell, I always say, if you add at the end of your question how you're going to feel when you get that thing. Because then that gets your brain thinking, well, when I fall in love, I'll be so happy. And look, and thinking about being in love, I'm already happy, right? It's again that moment of being in that space and having a feeling as if you already have whatever it is that's out there that you want. The thought of having enough money to be able to travel the world and sail around the Mediterranean, if that is what would make you happy. How can I do that? So yeah, those three parts. Assert your power in how you can get something, name what it is, and then say how you'll feel. That there, if you sat with your tarot cards and did that every morning with one card and one question, there's no way you wouldn't get the answer and the thing that you wanted in a 6 months to a year's time, if not sooner.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah. And it was interesting because I watched some of your previous interviews. I think you were on a news channel. I can't remember which one it was. And you had talked about the card a day. I was just watching it probably about an hour ago and saying how powerful that was. It was probably from about 2 years ago. And it was interesting how you were explaining that. And I think that's true. And a lot of people will think, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. And they don't really necessarily follow through on doing it. And I think it's good to be reminded to do that. I have so I have to go through with these questions. So you had this great childhood of being brought up all over in a bunch of different places, right? I've lived in Texas, okay, just so you get my picture. It's Texas, it's Longview, Texas, it's Texas A&M, and then Baylor Law School, then back to Dallas, so it's all Texas. And so, but I have this, so I love somebody who's so well-traveled and lived in so many different places, and I read a lot to make up for that, so I read all the time, but my question to you is, I have this theory, and it's not just my theory, but that cities have personalities, that they almost have, in a way, like a spirit of a city, like a a typical, like this city might be, I'm not saying this one, but one may be very, I don't know, greedy. I don't want to go with all the negative words, but you know what I mean. One may be
Cheerful.
Okay, so
Happy.
happy. So on the side of our building, our second store, we did a big, huge angel looking over this real kind of cool angel looking over. It's a mural over a city of crystals, and it's the skyline of Dallas, Texas.
Oh,
And so it's a really cool. It was a great art. What's this? A mural.
Detox Davies.
A mural
Davies
artist.
Detox.
Yeah, and so it's fantastic. Do you feel that from all the places you live? Do you feel that all the different energies in the different places?
absolutely, absolutely. I know I would not be who I am magically or creatively if I had not been brought up all over the country. My mother always had us living in very rural, very kind of wild places. So we were on the mountains in Vermont or the plains of Iowa or in the canyons of Colorado. So, and of course, it's the 70s. She's like, get outside and play. So I have very visceral memories from a very young age of feeling the essence of a place, which is always kind of wild when I'm on a plane going from like New York to LA, and I look down and I know like the mountains in Vermont feel entirely different than the mountains in upstate New York or in Maine or in Colorado.
Mm.
So I think that it was such a gift that I was left alone in nature in these wild places, because we're part of nature. We're not separate from it.
Exactly.
So I feel like nature is your best magical teacher in a way, and especially being so incredibly young and spending so much time in nature. Yeah. And then to answer the second part of your question, in terms of the energy of a place, in terms of traveling all around the world, 100% absolutely. It was so funny when you were just talking about cities having their own energies, like different mountains contain different energies, like for sure, like the New York energy, vibe, spirit is so intense and so, like, to me, so fabulous and hardcore but awesome but free, and there's like a synergy to the streets and the grid, and it's a city of crossroads compared to a really really cozy city like Seattle, which is kind of like would be like the hot grunge guy with the ponytail. And I mean, I guess I'm just going straight to the early 90s when I think of that. But compared to Boston, I remember the first time my daughter got out of a train in Boston and she's like, looks like Brooklyn. What I think was really surprising to me as I traveled, being a New Yorker, because I've been in New York City since 1988. What surprised me the most about traveling was the energy of the cities in Asia. I mean, it feels like you're in Blade Runner. Skyscrapers, neon. The energy is completely old and new, meeting in a collision, and it was exhilarating. It's interesting. I never thought New York City felt like an antiquated city to me until I returned from China, and I was like, whoa, we've got some catching up to do.
wow.
We really do.
It's interesting.
But it's interesting and it's fun, and that's something fun to do too with your tarot cards, is taking tarot and speaking to a place. Whether it's a city, a town, if you go to a historic property, it's really fun to have a conversation with the spirit of that place.
Mm-hmm. I think so too, and even a fun exercise just to go through and, okay, what card would this city be? If I had to pick a card for this city, what would it be? What would your card be for New York?
Oh, that's such a good question. The first thing that leaps to mind is the Justice card, because in New York, you have to show up and you have to do the work. And that's always what I equate with justice. Like, New York will chew you up and spit you out. There are no shortcuts. You put up, you work hard. There's always someone more talented than you, more beautiful than you, more interesting than you, more traveled than you. But it's the greatest thing. It's the most inspiring thing to kind of be up against. And again, the architecture of the city, which is, I have been out of New York. We're up in the Catskills right now, ever since COVID.
Right.
I didn't want my daughter to be in the city. I just wanted us to be safe. So we've
Right.
been upstate for a bunch of months. One of the things I miss the most is the architecture. And when I think of the Justice Card and all of the statues of justice, and especially the justice statues down at City Hall in Manhattan, which has been used for so many films because it's like Gothic City or Gotham City incarnate. Yeah, New York, I think would be the Justice Card.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think Dallas would be? Do you already have Dallas as a tarot card picked out?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it really either until we were talking. What do you think, Roger?
I think I know.
I don't, well,
I don't know.
tell me what you think.
I think it would be the Queen of Pentacles. Because when I went to Dallas, I was
I can see
expecting it
that.
to be like all like cowboys, like very like Knight of Pentacles. But I got there and there was like all these fabulous women, and not for nothing, but a lot of money. So I would be like very Queen of Pentacles.
I think you're right.
Dallas.
I can see that.
I do think Dallas is it's a tough city in its own way, in the sense of the heart of Dallas, when you're really getting, maybe not all the suburbs too.
Yeah, suburbs.
It's all very women who definitely take care of themselves, how they present themselves, and I think in Dallas, I don't want to speak poorly of it, but it feels like there's a lot of keeping up with the Joneses and all those. Yeah, it's a very
Definitely so.
yeah, and I mean, I was in the legal world for a long time, and so and served on a lot of boards, and then I came in. You know, my world became doing these stores, and so it's interesting to bring all these worlds together in Dallas. But I still see it. I think Queen of Pentacles would be perfect, actually.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
It would be, and it is. It's I just landed here and we haven't left, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite city in the world. Isn't that horrible? But Roger, what is?
I've been here 10 years, so
No, but it's wonderful. It's wonderful, but
What is your favorite city?
well, I think for me, it's probably, Sasha, more, where I visited, because I wouldn't know, because I've lived in, it's the favorite place I've lived, because Longview, Texas, which was 70,000 people, and Waco, Texas, definitely wouldn't be it. I guess Dallas, but to visit, I think it has been New York. And I had taken my kids there a lot, and actually took 40 to 50 kids there 4 years in a row. From a private school, we went on a fine arts trip and we would go to New York and go to all the museums and all the plays and haul them around, and 40 to 50 high school kids. And
that's so fun.
And, yeah.
How did you keep them track? I see those groups. I'm like, how do they keep track of all the kids?
Well, I just told them, if we lose you, sorry. No, I'm kidding. Bye.
Too bad for you.
See ya. Your parents will have to come find you. No, I didn't. And it was a school that, man, you got kicked out pretty quickly if you did anything wrong. So, but I loved New York. Roger,
Yes.
that was his first time to go.
yeah, my first time there. I went, well, we actually we were either in sessions there or running around the city doing stuff the whole time we were there.
So one more thing. So what card would Nashville, Tennessee be? Roger's from Nashville.
Nashville.
Well, you were lived.
Let's see.
You were born in Nashville.
Yeah, I was born in Nashville.
It's all music.
I don't know. Yeah, it's all music. So, music in the lake. So, it had to be.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's kind of like combining some cards. We'll have to think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So tell us a little bit about the Llewellyn's complete book of the. We're jumping all around here, but Llewellyn's complete book of the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot.
So that was the first book that that I was asked to write. It wasn't something that I came up with on my own and said, oh, I'd love, I didn't create a proposal for that. Llewellyn asked me to write it for their series. And I was so excited. The Rider-Waite deck is the deck that I learned deeply about with the tarot school, with Walden Ruth Ann Amberstone. And I think the history of that deck is so important. So I felt like I had been gifted with the opportunity to really dive into history and kind of reveal some of the really more interesting parts about the deck. It presented a wonderful challenge to me, because writing the complete book of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, unlike most tarot books, this is not a book about how I use the cards. This was not at all what I think the cards mean. It had to be based in the intention of Arthur Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith, right? The author and artist who created this
Right.
deck. So it had to be all about them. Now, in order to get to the heart of what Arthur Waite was what his intention was when he created this book, I had to deconstruct his companion book, The Pictorial Key. So what was interesting was that Arthur Waite was a Christian mystic and a Kabbalist, and along with most of the members of the Golden Dawn, but he had taken, a vow not to reveal those secrets. So when he published the companion book, he gave all of these fortune-telling meanings and then encoded his mystical meaning and his Kabbalistic work in very vague language, or very heavily coded language. So it was one of those books that I had looked at and of course like tried to read, but I'd never gone deeply between the lines of literally pulling apart every phrase. And from my joy as an author, one of the things that I recognized, that's a gift about all kind of densely packed poetic or even translated religious texts, is that when it doesn't necessarily make a perfect amount of sense, like poetry, it gives you a lot of room to kind of jump in and cultivate your own unique understanding of what the author was saying. So I've looked at sacred texts, sutras, all kinds of beautiful ancient works. I mean, although his writing's not ancient, it's only 100 years and change. But I understood kind of the beauty of moving into parables, poetry, and these giant concepts that are not necessarily contained by a perfect sentence that just explains it nicely and neatly. So for me, it was a real deep education on what the cards meant. It changed the way that I relate to the cards. It honestly changed the way that I view. I mean, ultimately, let's be honest, the Golden Dawn was interested in trying to figure out how things manifest in the world. How does something go from the invisible world to becoming a flower, a tree, a human, a person? So this is what they're trying to figure out, right? And once they've figured that out, like Indiana Jones, they want to turn around and kind of go right straight back up the tree of life to greet divinity on their own terms. To me, that's one of the most exciting things a person can do. So I know I'm going very deep into the deep mystical meaning of the cards, but to me, that's the whole fun part. I like to go deep. So so that book is meant to not only deconstruct what he meant, but also what all of the symbols on the cards mean. And it was such a joy to write. And it was just so much fun to dive into history. And then I happened to be in London before the book even came out. And it was just perfect timing of understanding what was going on, 100 years ago when they were making the deck. So it was a gift. It was just a delight to write.
Yeah, that is great. I'm going to pull that book back out and look at my Seven of Cups, because I've been doing a spread. I made a spread on the Seven of Cups, and I still can't get I was trying to do it with the, I'm just now getting into actually trying to do spreads. Like I'll make little spreads on Canva, because I hardly ever used spreads. I would just read. I knew, we teach tarot classes and stuff like that, but I knew how to use them. I just kind of would read, And so now I've started making some of my own, and I decided to make a spread on the Seven of Cups. I can't remember what I was doing it the other night. And there was some discrepancy in different books about the cups and what's in the cups. So I'm going to go look up your book and check that out.
Please do. I actually have a whole thing that I love the Seven of Cups. I have this whole thing I do with it, which is called the Seven Sacred Cornerstones of Constant Magic.
Wow.
And because what's inside each of the 7 cups relates right back. Each of those cups relate to a major arcana card. So it's really a gateway card that's so jam-packed with information.
Oh, we'll have to talk, because I find it fascinating. So we'll have to talk about that. Go ahead.
So we do have this, the one question we always ask is when we send it to you, is there any subjects off topic? You said no. So
Look at her eyes.
I got this whole list of movies. You want to talk about those?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I'm sitting up here in my attic. Here's I have my movie collections from the 90s. Yeah, I was a B movie star.
How many movies? I didn't count them. How many movies total? Do you know?
I think I made bloodletting. I think I made something like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was back in the day of Blockbuster. So a lot of these movies went straight into Blockbuster. In fact, that's funny that I happen to be literally sitting. So this is like my teenage room up here in the attic. I've got all my stuff, my movies, my books. It's where I hide away from my family. But this movie, Addicted to Murder, was the first B horror movie that I made, and I was on the cover of the box, and it went into Blockbuster, and that it was kind of then I never had to audition for any of the movies. The filmmakers were just inviting me to make these films, and it was just so great to be working as an actor, and I love horror, and so it was such a good time. Yeah. That was
that's
all
super
in the
cool.
90s.
Well, so Carlton Griffin that works for us, he said, you have to ask about all the shows, and he was going through pointing to the ones he's pretty sure that he had seen. Which one? He said Agenda.
Alien Agenda.
Alien Agenda, he thought he had maybe seen at some point somehow. A couple of other ones he was pointing to. He's like, I'm going to have to watch those now. So,
Yeah.
yeah. He thought that was so cool. So
What was super fun, I have to say, one of the movies, Polymorph, which was an alien flick, they had a screening of it at the director's birthday last year. It was a whole weekend of this director. So it was so crazy to go and sit in a movie theater in Brooklyn with a bunch of young hipsters who were just eating it up and loving it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
That's
Crazy.
That's cool. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with movies in the next couple of years. Not much will be coming out, right? It's going to be, I don't know. I think there's going to be a wave of, what do you think, Matt? Reality TV shows, or what are we going to have? What do you think?
I have no idea. We did buy tickets to a movie on Monday. So
You did?
I am going to go watch. And it's been the first time I've been in the theater in quite a while. I've been to a couple of these really cheap ones. I am excited to get back in the theater and
I love going
see
to
something. But yeah, I miss it. It's the biggest thing. It's the main thing I miss because of all this stuff.
is going to the movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the movies too. Everybody's like, you can just stay home and watch it. And we would always go, and we would the other night I bought something on TV, a CBS Access or something. And Roger said, what, you spent $5 for that? And I go, honey, we used to go and spend $60 3 times a week or $80 going to movies.
Because we'd go have dinner plus the movie plus the popcorn,
Maybe
a drink or two at the
Hot
theater.
dogs. You know?
It's so horrible when your kids, one of the things that I was so shocked about with my daughter's generation, when it's let's go see a movie, they don't want what they'd rather, because their entertainment's portable, so they can watch exactly what they want to watch. Kids that would actually say no to going to a movie theater and having popcorn, it's insane.
What's wrong with you? Yeah, well, I made mine go. So. I'm kidding.
The same. My friend and I were laughing when New York is back up and running, not just for films, but we're going out every night, theater and dance, and that I miss it. I miss that so much.
Yeah, I do too. Do we have time, Matt, for some readings? We're up against it. All right, so you guys, we're gonna do our typical. Where everybody listening can choose a number between
1, 2, or 3.
Okay, and each of this, you want to describe it, because I'm tongue.
So everybody out there, either pick the number 1, 2, or 3, and then each of us will give a reading, and we'll be assigned 1, 2, or 3.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
Pretty
get your
simple.
number in your mind now, and they always joke because I always pick the same number. So
Michelle always picks 2.
people are going to start rigging the readings, I think.
How they do the 3-card readings? People will post 3-card readings. She always picks 2.
I think
Doesn't matter who it is,
they're going to
2.
start rigging them and putting whatever card they want me to have in that second position. Michelle, what I in my shadow side that I really need to work on that they think, they're going to put that in place too. Do you want to just share and read with
Sure.
Sasha's
We
cards?
can do that.
Okay.
The
All right.
best is when you play rock, paper, scissors with her. She always picks the same thing. Never fails.
Yeah.
Same thing.
All right, so everybody pick 1, 2, or 3, and we said we would start with Sasha.
All right.
Sasha has agreed to read with us, so she will be giving our reading number 1 tonight. If you are ready, Sasha. And
I am ready.
and I don't. Let me just interject. I don't know if how we set the intention here is you can set it for of course, how you read, but just quickly, I just set the intention for the highest and best good for everyone we're reading for, just to make sure that everybody knows we do set those intentions and don't go through a big time on the air saying those intentions, but we do set them. Yeah. So.
Yep.
All right.
So, for anyone who picked number 1, your card is the 2 of Wands in the Darkwood Tarot. Now, if you take a look at the 2 of Wands, I've got a witch standing between 2 wands. And rather than holding the traditional globe in her hand, she's holding a crystal ball. And that means that you literally, whatever your question was or is, or however you're feeling, one of the things that you have to remember is that you are literally holding magic in your hands. And the quickest way to access that magic is to recognize it, to own it, and to start playing with it. So it's really important for you, and it's an easy thing to do this time of year as the nights are getting longer and we're moving into October, so we're moving into that wonderful witching season. At the bottom of this card, you see there's a bunch of apples that have been devoured. And so, of course, it leaves it open. Did the witch eat the apples, or did she cast a spell and have somebody else eat the apples? So my advice to you is own your magic, devour it, and start plotting and planning for what you're going to do as you jettison into the next cycle of your life.
Beautiful. All right.
Man, I got to follow that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you get to follow Sasha's great reading here. Number 2. So number
All right,
2 is
so
going to
if
be
you got
Roger.
number 2, that's me. All right, so what I got is actually the 4 swords. Matt, we didn't set it up, and I hit it
Got it.
earlier. How's that look?
We good? Well, hold on.
So the 4 swords, what I see there, though, is actually kind of cool. You know.
You got it.
There we go.
There.
Got it.
All right, cool. So 4 swords. Typically, what I want to tell you people is, let's take this time, take this opportunity to kind of chill, relax. But what I like about this card is you got the cards, the sword she's holding. She's kind of looks like she's sleeping. She's not really. Don't drop your guard. Keep your guard up. Do take that time to actually for yourself. But be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the people around you, the situations around you. Don't just totally drop your guard down, though. Okay? But do take the time for yourself to step back and kind of chill out a little bit.
So it's so interesting because when I was looking for all of you who chose number 3, I was looking at through the book I was going to show Sasha earlier some of my favorite cards, and the one that kept popping up was, will you hold it for me, Roger? Was the 2 of Cups. This card, this is one of my favorite cards. It's hard to choose in the deck, but and what I see when I look at that, I'm first instantly drawn to the eyes on the horses, and then I'm drawn to may I see it again? How one of the horses is doing its paw, kind of going and leaning. They're kind of leaning into each other. And this 2 of Cups, what I'm getting for all the number 3s is about leaning into the energy of other people, leaning in. Sometimes we want to lean away and pull away from somebody because maybe we don't instantly agree or something like that, but I'm getting this, go ahead and lean in to others. You don't have to go all the way in and be with everything that they believe and agree with everything they believe, but just approach and just try to find some unity between the two of you or two groups. And this, I love how I just keep getting for all the number threes to just lean into other energy, and that would help us in this coming week. Yeah, I love this card. And Sasha, I love the red eyes. What would you say about the red eyes on the horses?
Well, they are creatures from the dark woods, so they are enchanted horses. And the red eyes, to me, is the fire of passion inside of them. And it's a card of love. And like you said, when horses meet for the very first time, they breathe each other in. And that is a very beautiful tantric technique. Tantra connects us with inner fire. So to me, the red horses are about your inner fire.
I love that. And in greeting each other's inner fire is and leaning. I keep getting that and leaning into it, and not being afraid to not only greet your own inner fire, but to greet others, and to come together with those inner fires. So the shadow of not just yourself, but once you manage that, someone else's too, your partner or a friend or someone else. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
That's cool.
So love these cards. Thank you so much for joining us, Sasha. Taking time out. I know how busy you are. We really, really do appreciate it. I love your getaway room. It's awesome. I have lights in my office. I have twinkle lights in my office that Roger put up for me. So I love the lights. So again, thank you so much. And I think we are up against time,
Yes.
right, Roger?
I believe so.
So I'm just going to say that's it for this week. You guys, you can listen to SoulWhat on Spotify, the iHeart Radio app, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and of course by watching live on YouTube. It's Michelle Soultopia, and on both of our Facebook pages, and it's SoulWhat and Soultopia Holistic Boutique. I said I'm getting tongue-tied. But most importantly tonight, you can reach Sasha by getting in contact with her at www.sashagraham.com, and that's Graham with an H, GRAHAM.com, sashagraham.com.
Yep.
Thank you guys for listening, where we discuss what matters to our soul, and you guys get to listen and discern what matters to your soul. Good night.
Good night, guys.